Daydream, the fairy story written by Tanya. Once a young king ruled the kingdom. He had enough of everything: money, fame, servants, and land. Only the daydream was missing. He looked at the sky often and he hoped that she would appear soon. Since his childhood, he believed that the time would come when his daydream would be with him. However, people didn't understand him. They laughed at him behind his back. They winked at each other slyly. The king has yet to grow up, although it's time for him to marry and to start a family, they said. The most beautiful woman in the kingdom should be his queen, they reckoned. But the king hid his thoughts and hopes from his courtiers and subjects. And one day, he decided to build a palace for his daydream, raised high above the clouds on a mountain, out of sight of prying eyes and out of earshot of gossiping tongues. He collected precious stones from around the kingdom and bought much silver and gold. From far-off countries he brought in skillful craftsmen, and before the 4 seasons had passed, the palace was ready. It stood shining and opulent on the very peak of the mountain, radiant in the bright sunshine. Nearly every day the king would go up the mountain, which was not an easy journey to make, and sit in the palace for hours on end, waiting. Everyone knew what he was waiting for. Some daydream, they thought. Kings have their own strange aura. Then, unexpectedly, a terrible catastrophe struck the kingdom. A drought killed the year's harvest, and a tidal wave of massive proportions flattened entire forests and decimated wildlife. This was followed by an earthquake, which made the ground shudder and the mountain tops slip down to ground level. The wonderful palace was now standing before the hungry people, teasing them. Destroy the palace. Sell your jewels, gold and silver. Buy food to feed us. The people pleaded with their monarch. After all, you are our king. I can't. It's the dearest thing I have, the king replied, somewhat embarrassed. But the hungry crowd insisted. If you don't give it to us at your own free will, we shall take it by force. The people became furious and rebelled against their ruler. The king began to have self-doubts. Probably I'm not right, he thought. But by then, it was too late. Neighboring tribes from land bordering the kingdom took advantage of the chaotic situation and invaded the king's lands, determined to capture the glittering palace and its treasures. The king retreated into his palace and stood by the gate, ready to defend it against the invaders and against even his own people. He was alone against everybody. A huge crowd of gnashing teeth, greedy eyes, dirty hands moved against him. Maybe I shall die here, but I shall allow nobody to desecrate the palace of my daydream, he declared as he tried to push back the surging crowd. Someone struck him a blow on the back of the head. He went down in a heap, overpowered by sheer weight of numbers. As the wounded king lay helpless on the ground, he could only look on in desperation as a crowd began tearing the wonderful diamonds from the palace ornaments. What do I need this palace for? He shouted at them. Listen, take anything you want. I have nothing left. No kingdom, no palace, no love, haven't I? His strength was dying away when suddenly he heard shouts, the stamping of boots, the clash of steel. Someone was fighting bravely, and the king's face brightened into a smile. I'm so grateful to you, stranger, he said. Somebody touched his hand tenderly, but this wasn't a masculine hand. The king heard a voice. I shall help you, it said. He opened his eyes disbelievingly. Who are you? He asked. Your daydream. Came, her replied.